Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Caitlin Peterson. She is an integrative psychotherapist, and she is a founder of the Soul School, offering private sessions, workshops, and guiding a journey to a wholehearted living. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with you.
You are welcome to the show, Caitlin. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to discuss about. We'll be talking about befriending ourselves, how to have difficult conversations with ourselves. So first to understand from you, Caitlin, what is this befriending ourselves when nowadays people are trying to befriend artificial intelligence rather than themselves, because they have forgotten themselves in this whole process of development or whatever it is we want to call it. Help us understand this.
That's a great connection, AI and our consciousness, right? So thank you for bringing that up. It's a lot easier probably to become friends with a computer than it is another person, let alone ourselves. But the importance of doing so is that at the end of the day, who are we with? We are alone with ourselves. And I am on a mission to help people understand that they can come from a place of loneliness, desperation for connection outside of themselves, to a deepening of love and loyalty to themselves by going, oh my God, I get to be with myself all day. What a wonderful gift that is. And so we can do that through just becoming more aware of the inner dialogue in our minds.
Right. So how do they do that? Because sometimes, you become your biggest enemy. You come in your own way.
Yes.
So how do I become or befriend myself in today's time? You are a psychotherapist. You know about these things. If you can give some tips, especially for the younger generation.
Come on. No, I'm just kidding. You're right. It's a complex thing because so much of our day-to-day life, we're not being conscious of our thoughts, right? They just happen automatically, and there is no real control over what perception we have of ourselves at any given moment. But what ends up happening is usually we get really sick, either mentally or physically, right? And we're just so sick of ourselves and the voices that we hear. But who is the part of us that can actually tell that we're having thoughts? That's who we want to step forward for us. That I call is our soul. And a lot of the thoughts that we have are complicated, they're long-winded, they're loud, right? That's our ego. That's what you call like our inner critic, right? The voice that's super opinionated and rigid and maybe very critical of themselves. That's what you're saying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So my question to you though, Ajay, is why do we even have an ego? Why do we have that inner dialogue? Do you know? What is it doing?
Well, that's part of us. We have been made, in so many different emotions, good ones, not so good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Jealousy can spurt you towards achieving something great, not for yourself, but also for humanity.
Yes.
And sometimes that same thing can not only destroy others, but first it destroys yourself. Yourself.
So true. It's never satiated, right? There's always something more. But you're right. It can be used for good. So that's a good thing to recognize, right? The ego isn't necessarily bad, but it can be destructive, and it's in all of us. Every single person has an ego. In fact, it's our personality a lot of the time. And our personality is formed just like a computer program, right? AI. Someone had to go in there. Those engineers went in there and typed out these codes, right? If you press F, this is what comes up on the screen. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that. But our brains are very similar. So our ego is formed by the programmers in our lives. Our reality, which we perceive. It's what we're taught. It's what we are around in family and culture. And it's also the way that we view the world and ourselves. So that's how our ego is formed. And the point of it is to keep ourselves acceptable and safe. So even when the critic is super loud in our heads and it's creating a lot of chaos in our lives, the point of it all is to keep ourselves safe and safe from the potential threat of being ostracized or rejected in the world, which will then end in death.
Right, Caitlin. Now, about difficult conversations. What are these difficult conversations? And I understand a bit that you can have difficulty in having difficult conversations with someone in office, someone outside, but why ourselves? So first, help us understand what are these difficult conversations and why is it so difficult to talk to ourselves?
Yes, because if we're in a constant state of trying to fit in, trying to do what's best, trying to appease our family or society or friends, whatever entity has power over us, value in the eyes of, we may be denying our truth. We may be denying what we really want, what we feel comfortable doing, in hopes to get something, right? Our ego is always looking for safety and appreciation. So difficult conversations with ourselves first starts with realizing that there's two parts of you. The loud, noisy one, which is our ego, our personality, the construct of who we are as a self based off of what we described before. And the second part is our soul. It's this eternal wisdom. It lives in the frontal lobe of our brain, and it's really quiet, really calm, and it also can be felt physically. We get chills, we get a gut feeling, there's a sensation in our chest. That's who we need to have a conversation with. So when we start to identify the observer, the soul, the consciousness, and we see the ego running amok of our lives, that's who we need to have a conversation with. So when you're in a situation that you're feeling really kind of like dreading, or maybe there's a lot of conflict, or you just know in your gut you're saying yes when you want to say no, or you're saying no when you want to say yes, these are the difficult conversations, and you're not having it with anyone else first. You're having it with yourself. You're sitting down and you're going, okay, Ajay, what is really happening here? These are the things I'm talking about. So we talk first in your body, Ajay. The soul and the ego are going to come together and they're going to say, okay, what am I feeling in my body? You're going to identify it in your body, sensations, then the emotion. Then the emotion is going to tell you a story. That's the ego, right? So you're going to listen, and it's going to be filled with all of this evidence to prove a point about yourself or somebody else, right? If you think you're not, can I ask you a personal question? What's like a belief that is limiting about yourself that you're trying to overcome right now?
Right now, I can't think of anything at the moment. But many a times, you want to do things that can be profitable to you, but the way you are made up of is that you are not able to distinguish between that you are being trying to do something which has to be in your interest, or at that point in time you feel that okay, it will be manipulation.
Totally.
And okay, so sometimes even the basic things, that's what you call is that self-care, that is where it comes. Many times you are not able to look at your own needs. Sometimes you are looking at someone else's needs, and that point in time it all depends on who wants to look at it what ways. Sometimes the way we have been brought up, many a times it starts, you need to take care of others, which is the part of your dharma.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to also think about yourself, because you have to do justice to yourself. So that is not a negative thing, but it
Right.
can certainly happen as a dilemma as we start looking at the world and how things are developing. So
That's such a
earlier this word called self-care was not there.
Yeah.
It used to be considered as selfish. And so those dilemmas are there, not in a particular sense, but this is what I see around, to understand all those things in these new concepts in our life, like we are trying to understand artificial intelligence in our life. So we have to also understand about artificial people in our lives who genuinely deserve your full-fledged attention, but and those people who are artificial, who are there only to take from you. This happens everywhere in the world.
Phenomenal. You're right. Totally. So the conflict I'm hearing, and maybe it's a belief, that if I take care of myself when it's in relationship to someone who's genuine, that you truly care about,
Yes.
is harder, is selfish of me, versus when I have boundaries with people who are artificial and seeking something out from me.
Right.
Okay. So I'm boiling it down, because our brains are very rudimentary, right? So it doesn't have very finite details in the brain. Like it doesn't do well with finesse. So it's going to make a big loose association here. So if I take care of myself, it's selfish. Whether
Right.
the person, yeah. So to overcome that, because of self-care, you're battling this internal dialogue that says, no, look how selfish you are. Look at the selfish people over there doing it. And look how their parents are suffering. Look how their family is suffering because they're over here doing their own thing. So the belief is, if I'm taking care of myself, then I'm harming and not taking care of another person. That's a deep-seated generational, I suffer from that too, generational trauma bond, right, with people. So how do we have, I guess, would it be comfort and compassion for the ego that actually is believing something good for the world has to come? So we feel it in our body, we feel the discomfort, we identify the story that we're telling ourselves about this belief, and then we get to the truth. Well, what is real about this situation? That's when the soul comes in, and it's very simple stuff, right? I'm not going to abandon these people, but maybe I can't do it right now. It's not a no, it's a yes, but at this time, or yes, but at this moment. So it becomes clearer because the soul is now speaking back to you. And then you get to, okay, sweetheart, ego and soul, let's come up with an intent. What do we want from this situation? Okay, well, I want my beloved to feel loved and prioritized. And I also want to make sure that I'm doing it from a place of authenticity. So that's what we do with ourselves. We get to the core of the intent and then choose just the first action to move forward with that intent in our heart and watch what unfolds.
Right. And it's not about one individual. Even everywhere in the world, you see people are working hard in their offices. Mm-hmm. And someone may look at it as that this guy is so only immersed in his own growth and his own ambitions, mm-hmm. but they will not look at it that he's trying to, the boss has certain expectations. Yeah. He's also trying to save his job. And he's also, because he has someone to take care of, a family to take care of, and also want to be employable in the future, because that's where, things will be better for everyone around him. Yeah. But everyone may not be wise to look at it from that point of view. And that is what also, keeps people worried in a lot of places, because all the good intentions will only be good if others also understand it that way. That's the dilemma everywhere. You may have the time, others may not have that much of patience. Yeah. And that's where the discord is.
You're right. And so that's why it's really important to come to peace with what your intention is. That's where the best friend part comes. And if I'm misunderstood, it doesn't change the perception of myself, right? And when you're talking about a job on the line and nobody understands the pressure that you're under, and maybe you're not as patient or as accommodating with your colleagues, is it really necessary for them to hear your whole backstory? But I will tell you, if you have compassion for yourself and you understand your motives and your pressure, you'll probably feel less triggered when someone doesn't understand you, because you're okay. You understand yourself. And you'll probably feel less stress when you give yourself the release of having that one-to-one with yourself, giving that reflection and going, I have compassion. I understand what my motives are. I know where my heart is. And maybe I need to give myself a break.
Right. Then let's talk about, community-based leadership that you specialize in. Mm-hmm. If you look at community leaders, they may also be facing the same dilemma.
Totally.
Because a lot of times they have to look at the community. They also have to look at their own needs,
Yeah.
the needs of the family first, and a lot of people around that. How do they then, this particular understanding of befriending themselves, having difficult conversations, where does the truth lie when they are talking in where they're living this particular life?
Ajay, that is such a good question. You know, what pops into my mind is this funny meme of a guy trying to mop the ocean, right? With one mop and a little bucket, and he's just mopping at the shoreline, right? It's never going to be enough from one person. And a community leader, whether it's in a town, a city, a state, a country, a world, a business, a family, is to know your resources and to know your limits. So when you have a good sense of responsibility, a personal responsibility, you are not going to burn out because you have a team of a network of people who can come in and step in and show up and be empowered by you, because you know yourself, I'm one person. This community needs a lot of leaders. And my job is to see what your talents and strengths are and utilize them to the point of your best, and know that you too have limits and you too have a capacity that if you burn out, you're no use to me or the community. So why would I want to support overextending your talents, right? So as a leader, the biggest thing is to befriend yourself and to know your limits and to know that you're actually very weak alone and you're much stronger when you are seen as someone that supports others becoming the best in themselves.
Right, Kathleen. So that means, leaders, community leaders will have to promote self-leadership among people, among the community that they serve.
Yeah, totally. I've said no to opportunities because I knew that I wasn't in that space to take on all of the responsibility. And it was a choice to say, I could do that. And then these things in my life would be affected negatively. So thank you, but I'm not the right person for this job right now. And that's telling my ego, no, you can't go off of this high, because you're going to end up harming so much more of what you value than just getting this accolade, this promotion, this opportunity of leadership. So it's really learning how to be the leader of your ego versus having your ego lead you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us a bit about then the Soul School. It's a nice name. Tell us a bit about this, what you do there, and so that people can make the best use of this.
Thank you. Yeah. So the Soul School is basically a place, whether it's coaching or through therapy and workshops, where I lead people through a set of questions and reflections to their soul. I'm not the school. You have it within yourself. So I just help people open the door to get truthful with themselves and to see the shadows that their ego might be hiding. And so that we can heal with compassion and understanding, build our consciousness, build our ability to see the truth of a situation where we're really leading from a place of courage and strength versus fear and anxiety of not having enough. So it's fun. It's a great place. I go around the world doing these workshops. I'm also a hypnotherapist. So I work on changing the AI of your subconscious programming through deepening and relaxation techniques. And the greatest teacher I find in our lives usually is our partner, our romantic life partner, whether it's a significant other or a spouse. Using them as a mirror in counseling can open up a lot of things that we can heal that we may hide away from time to time. So that's what we do there.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one good teacher can also be time. When you traverse that path, then when that time your thought is different. When you look back, time tells you, that you looked at it differently, and now the time is to look at things very differently. So this is all the learning that we learn as we go along in life. And the more we learn is to look inwards, more towards ourselves, and to befriend ourselves and not anything else. And in that we find not only others, not only us, but a whole lot of world outside that is waiting to be discovered.
Totally.
So there is so much to learn from you. And so a lot of people who would want to learn from you, about you, get to be a part of the Soul School, what is the best way for them to do so, Caitlin?
So they can follow me on Instagram. I make videos, and that's at the Soul School. And then my website is katewellness.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Take care.